What's up, you guys? We are talking UFC Seattle. Once again, a lot has changed since we initially broke down this fight card. Since the card was officially announced, we've lost 7 bouts. Now, I do have some good news. Rob Font did find an opponent. He was initially supposed to be taking on Dominic Cruz, of course. Now, Gene Matsumoto, the young stud, will be taking a short notice fight against him. So we'll break down that fight. We'll dissect the betting odds. Besides that, we have Austin Vanderford making his UFC debut. Okay, he was a longtime Bellator staple. Of course, before all that, he actually fought on Dana White's Contender Series and won a fight and still didn't get a contract. But here he is now. I believe he's the husband, fiance, or boyfriend. One of the three. Take your guess there, of Paige Van Zandt. And I'll give you guys a funny little story about that couple, as they are local to me over here. I got some funny stuff we could talk about, and it kind of correlates in a roundabout way to Vanderford versus Nikolay Veretinnikov. What's great about both of these new fights is that the odds are relatively close, so I always like that. We have something to talk about here, and if you guys stick around with me to the end of this video, I'm going to throw a prop play towards your guys' way. I'm not doing the whole prop edition video since we're doing this right now, but I will throw at least one prop play towards your guys' way for UFC Seattle. So please, guys, if you like this content, you guys hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's jump into the video.
The teller.
So you can now add Austin Vanderford's name to the list of former Bellator fighters that the UFC has targeted. Of course, centered around the signing of Patricio Pitbull, who will be taking on Yair Rodriguez. I cannot wait for that fight. Now, there's some rumors that the UFC is going to get their hands on the very entertaining Aaron Pico. Hopefully, we get to see that come to fruition. That's a little bit more complicated. That's not all set in stone yet. But Vanderford, not as bad of a fighter as some people believe he is. I know he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights, but take a look at the level of competition there. He was finished by Gegard Mousasi, and then he was finished by Aaron Jeffrey. Jeffrey's an underrated fighter. He did bounce back with the victory in his last fight against a lower level Victor Romero. But Vanderford brings in that wrestling pedigree to the cage. He's a former NAIA wrestling champ. We've seen him incorporate those wrestling and grappling skills into the MMA world pretty well, even dating back to when he was victorious on DWCS. A lot of people forget he actually had a finish in that fight that took place all the way back. Check this out, guys. This was really one of the earlier seasons of DWCS back in 2018. Okay, he secured a rear naked choke, 2nd round victory. He still did not get the contract. I was kind of scratching my head at the time. I thought with his name and just the whole background story of him being together with Paige Van Zandt, that the UFC would have kind of used that to their advantage, and they wanted nothing to do with that. After not being signed, you could say he had a pretty productive career. He won some fights in the regional scene before Bellator got their hands on him. He's had some success over there. There's some respectable victories that he's had. Probably the biggest one that he's had was the Fabian Edwards unanimous decision victory, the brother of Leon Edwards, who's not a bad fighter. We saw him just be very competitive against a fighter that a lot of us believe to be one of the top middleweights in the world, in Johnny Eblen. So that was a good sign for him. Besides that, I mean, you could bring up the Vinicius de Jesus victory. And in these fights, when he's thriving, of course, he is using a lot of those wrestling and grappling skills. He's very active in the grappling scene as well, intertwining the BJJ with that wrestling background. But as of recently, he has only won 1 of his last 3 fights. He was finished up against Mousasi and Jeffrey brutally in the first round. You have to like the way that he had a comeback victory in that last fight, but look at the level of competition there. Victor Romero, I mean, this is a different type of fighter than even a Nikolay Veretinnikov, okay? But you also got to give him credit for going out there and smashing him and getting the victory in the first round. And when you run the tape back on that fight, which you can go over to the UFC's Fight Pass YouTube channel right now, they just posted that fight there for you for free. You see the power that he has and the raw athletic ability and all that, but you also note he's not a technical striker. Even the strikes that he landed in that fight, landed a nasty jab, but his strikes come from very far out, east and west, as I like to say. He's not like a technical, straight down the pipe type of kickboxer, but he does get away with it with the speed and athleticism that he has. But the key in this fight, in my opinion, is going to be for him to mix things up. I don't want to see him in a straight kickboxing match with Veretinnikov. Not to say that he can't have success there, but then he's kind of playing into Veretinikov's wheelhouse more so. I would like to see him change levels, have success with his wrestling. Don't forget, in Veretinikov's fight against Michael Morales, even though we hold Michael Morales in very high regard, he's an Ecuadorian wrestling champ and all that, Michael Morales controlled him for a substantial amount of time throughout that fight. He controlled him for 5 minutes and 30 seconds. He was 4 of 8 in his takedowns. Okay, he solidified 50% of his takedowns. That fight didn't take place that long ago. I would like to see Vanderford replicate some of that. And all in all, I just like him having that wrestling in the back pocket. Vanderford has put a lot of time in over at American Top Team in Coconut Creek, as has Paige Van Zandt. And, just to bring it up, which, I don't know how much merit this carries into the fight, but I'm sure Van Zandt makes her fair share of money, but it's not like Vanderford is just completely set and he's just a fat cat. In my opinion, one of my very close friends is a UPS truck driver, and he frequently drops off packages to the Vanderfords, or the Van Zandt and Vanderfords, and they got a little apartment complex over in the area of American Top Team. I mean, I'm sure they have multiple residences, but still, the point being is I think that Vanderford is still hungry to make more money and to make his name more respectable in the fight game under the UFC banner. Now, as you guys saw, Vanderford opened up as a plus 115 underdog. He's currently a minus 120, so we have action coming in on him. I'm in agreement with the line movement. I feel more comfortable being on his side. This is a close fight, though. Okay, so the line is pretty accurate. Pick your poison here. I would rather side with Vanderford. And if you're looking to lock this bet in, reach out to me so I can give you guys my referral link to BetUS. You'll get a 150% match on your first 3 deposits. If you're interested, you could shoot me an email at mmafortuneteller@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram or Twitter. I got those popping up below. And then in a catchweight bout at 140, we got the veteran Rob Font taking on Gene Matsumoto. What's interesting about this fight, it's kind of reminiscent to a fight that just took place with a teammate of Rob Font's and Calvin Kattar, where he took on the Moroccan Devil, Youssef Zalal. There's so many parallels in both of these fights, right? Because Font and Kattar both have recently struggled with their takedown defense, and now they're both matched up against young guns, young fighters that you could say they're going to go look to take them down and implement similar tactics. But as we saw in the Kattar fight, that wasn't necessarily the case. Zalal was getting the better of the striking and using his footwork to outpoint him. And I also feel that this fight's similar in that regard too. We may see Matsumoto change levels and try to solidify some takedowns like Figueiredo and Corey Sandhagen were able to do against Font. But I actually believe that we will see a substantial amount of striking in this fight. Matsumoto is very comfortable standing and trading in the fire, and that could be to his demise, or I could also see him even having some success there against Font, because Matsumoto's striking has looked pretty good to me. And it's not like he just has to strictly make this a striking match. He could also use his striking to set up takedowns, which could solidify rounds. He has proven to be a young winner, man. He's 16-0 so far at just 25 years old. And what's most impressive, it's not all the fights that he had in the regional scene over in Brazil. It's the fact that he gets that victory on DWCS and then he comes into the UFC and he defeats fighters like Dan Argueta and Brad Katona, who are two hard-nosed wrestlers, okay? They're very game, they're proven, okay? They may not be the most well-rounded of fighters, but for a young kid to come in and defeat both of those fighters and also getting a finish on Dan Argueta via guillotine choke in the second round, I have him on my radar now, man. This is a fighter that has some real promise, okay? But you understand that this fight's taking place at 140. Rob Font has a big frame. Rob Font had a great performance in his last fight against Kyler Phillips, a talented and diverse, dynamic striker. Can Rob Font keep this fight standing? Could he continue to pressure Matsumoto and get the better of the striking? You take a look at the numbers. Font landing 5.44 strikes per minute. We've always known him to be a very active boxer. Take a look at the absorption rate. That, to me, was pretty impressive, and I wasn't expecting him to only be landing on a 3.58. That's a solid ratio there. I always more thought of Font as being a fighter that gives one to take one, and he's involved in a lot of firefights. But again, I mean, if you also think about the Chito Vera fight, that's a fight that he dropped, but he outlanded Vera like crazy. He just kept getting hit with that one big strike. I'm sure the numbers in that fight did this a service here, as I think he was breaking records in that fight with the volume that he puts out. But that's the type of fighter he is, man. He could really push the pace. That's what he did to Kyler Phillips. And we take a look at Matsumoto and the limited work he's been doing in the UFC. He's been landed on at 5.05 while landing 5.2. So the ratio is not as good there. That's going to be the recipe for success for Font. Can he push the pace with the striking? Can he keep it there? Can he keep it there? First and foremost, that's where he could have success. I'm going to say Matsumoto rises to the occasion here. I like his youth compared to the weathered Rob Font, who's creeping up on 38 years old. I know he had a solid performance his last fight, but I'm not really crazy about these fighters creeping up to their 40s in these lighter weight classes. And Gene Matsumoto, although he's 25, he has a lot of experience, and I think that he's going to start to put it all together. He's the more complete threat. Like I said, he could change levels, but even in a striking affair, I wouldn't even be shocked if he landed a KO. Wouldn't be shocked if they're trading and the older fighter gets dropped with a shot. I mean, we've seen that in the past. I know Rob Font's very tough, but Matsumoto can crack, and he's very comfortable sitting in the pocket. Let's take a look at the odds here. On BetUS, Matsumoto opened up as a minus 180. We saw that when this fight was announced. He was opening up as almost a 2-1 favorite on a lot of books, and we saw that line close rapidly. He touched as low as a minus 145, and right now he's a minus 155. I understand why we've seen that line movement. I think that people just feel that Font's big, especially at this catch weight of 140, has a long frame, and he's hungry. He was training for the date. Matsumoto was not training for the date. That's another key factor in this fight. With that all being said, I still like the value on Matsumoto, even at a minus 155 line. I think he wins this fight. And then as promised, I got to get at least one prop play coming your guys' way for the card. Hey, guys, don't forget, if you want my official action, the plays that I am targeting for this card, okay, these are the ones that I really, really like, the ones I'm going to be coughing up some big money on. If you guys want those, you guys can always reach out to me, shoot me an email, or DM me on Instagram or Twitter for further information. I'm talking main event action here. We got Henry Cejudo taking on Song Yadong. How about Henry Cejudo up in the comment section of mine over on IG at mmafortuneteller, man, giving me some feedback there. That was pretty cool. Listen, what I'm eyeing in this fight, I'm liking this fight to go to a decision. Henry Cejudo has only been finished once, and it was a long time ago against Demetrius Johnson. He has developed so much as a fighter throughout the years, and I know he's getting up there in age as he's 38, but he's tough, he's durable, he's not going to look for a way out. I expect Song to be a step ahead of him in the striking department, and even if Henry gets a takedown or two, I think that Song will get back up to his feet, or when the next round kicks off, he'll go back to outstriking Cejudo, but I don't think that Song will get Cejudo out of there. Also, when you take a look at Song Yadong, this is a fighter that's 21-8-1. He's taken his fair share of losses. A lot of them came early on in his career, but he hasn't been finished often. Only twice has he been finished, and one of them, the fight had to be stopped due to some damage that he took, right, in the Corey Sandhagen fight. I mean, he's a tough dude, too. He looks to hang in there. This is a fight that I see making to the final bell, so that's what I'm going to give you guys here. It's not a big old plus type of play here, but you take a look at some of the available lines, and you can get this right around a minus 165. Okay, so I think there's some value there. I know it's a 5-rounder, 25 minutes to go to make it to that final bell, but I feel pretty comfortable. This is a fight that makes it to the final bell. Comment below. Let me know if you guys are tailing me or you're fading me on that free play there, or give us some feedback. Give us a prop play for the card. We always like to see that feedback. I appreciate you guys greatly. Please do go follow me on all my social media. You guys see that listed below. I hope you guys all have a great and profitable weekend. Signing out. Teller.
The teller.